So let's get started. I know we've got a couple of people to join us and they will come in when they are ready. So hello and welcome to our overseas visitors. I don't think I've thought of saying that before. It makes me sound like I've got an international following. So this is the last of our summer Zoom flower classes. It's week number 10. And last week we made a macrame wall hanging, which I think might have stumped a few of you, but I've certainly seen some pictures starting to come into the group. Normally I show you what we made last week, so you'll just have to imagine this is what I'm showing you. And if I remember, when I send the video out later today, I'll put a picture over my face and you can see the wall hanging, just in case any of the ladies that are watching on catch up and didn't sign up for last week's class, just to entice you to come along and join me. Now, at this point, I normally tell you what we're going to be doing next week, but of course there is no class next week, but I am going to be hosting, I haven't quite decided what to call it yet, a summer holiday flower arranging club on Zoom, or a sort of staycation flowers. So those of us who will be holidaying at home, or holidaying in the UK, or holidaying with friends and family, it's going to be about making flower arrangements to enjoy at home, to make your ordinary everyday space of being at home, a little bit special, to make you think that perhaps you are away on holiday. So over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'll be feeding you information about that, giving you an idea of what we're going to be making and creating. I do have a list in my diary, so when we have our chat later on, I can go through what I've got planned at this stage for next time. And then, as my faithful followers, if you pre-book the classes, I will give you a discount on the listed price that will appear on my website. So I will let you know about that as well. So you'll get you will get the best deal because you're watching this video, the opportunity to take up the deal. There will be a pay-as-you-go price, as there has been this time, and also you'll get a small saving on the pay-as-you-go price if you do decide to, if you miss the deadline for booking and you do decide you want to book all 10 classes. But I will explain that over the course of the next few weeks when I send out my weekly newsletter to you. So today's class is about making a flower crown. So we're having a little bit of a celebration. So, are you going to any virtual festivals or real festivals this year? Perhaps you're having a festival themed garden party for your friends. We always have cousins weekends, which is the highlight of our year. And we always have our own little festival on the last night. So I will be getting my sisters and nephews and nieces to make flower crowns so we can all get busy and creative together. So what will you need to make your flower crown? It's going to be a glue method for your flower crown. So don't be put off by the fact that you think you're going to have to do lots and lots of fiddly wiring. And I'm going to be using this aluminium wire. So if you're a member of a flower club, this is quite a popular mechanic at the flower clubs. So you may well have a reel of this in your toolbox already. And if you're new to it, I'm guessing you've used the link in the workshop sheet that I gave you, and you've bought yourself something similar. I've gone for bright red because it's the only one I had to hand, but you might want to choose a more subtle colour, whether it is a colour that tones in with your flowers, or whether you want it to be hidden in your hairline. So you might be going for the golds or the silvers or the browns, reds, oranges, or whatever hair colour you happen to have at the moment. So how are we going to get our flowers to stick? I'm going to be using pipe cleaner. So we used these pipe cleaners way back in week 1 when we did the flower arrangements, which were tumbling out of the teapot and into a flower cup. And again, I've gone a really bright colour. I didn't quite realise when I was ordering these online, it was quite such a lurid green as it is. And again, you could be more selective in your colours. But part of the reason I go for bright colours is that so you can see what I am making rather than everything being muted and hidden from view. And then the next question is, I just need to mute there as well. We're just getting a little bit of background noise. I think that should be okay now. And how are you going to attach your flowers? Well, we're gluing. So if you are using fresh flowers, you may want to use the floral adhesive. And again, I've left a link to that in the workshop sheet. And If you're using artificial flowers or dried flowers, or you want to work with speed as your watchword, you may want to use a glue gun. So I'm going to be using a glue gun today. Normally, when you're using fresh flowers, we don't advise you to use a glue gun because the heat of the glue isn't very good for your fresh flowers. But on the other hand, if you're making a flower crown, you're normally making it for an occasion. And as long as your flowers last for the couple of hours that you're swanning around with the pins in your hand and your lovely floral dress, it doesn't really matter. So that choice is entirely down to you. But for speed today, because the floral adhesive does need a little bit of drying time, I'm going to be going with my hot glue gun. And also, surprise, surprise, I'm going to be working mainly with silk flowers. So you can see this lovely flower arrangement I've got behind me. The idea was, this is something I made in one of my real life classes in Canterbury this week. I thought I would just crop the flowers that I'd use for class this week and convert them into my flower headdress. And I decided when I got home that I liked my flower arrangement so much, I didn't really want to cut bits and pieces out. So what I have done is I've gone through and I have got some silk flowers. So these flowers, several of you in the group are members of my DIY wedding flowers group, which I host on Facebook. And you will have last seen these flowers when they were part of a shower bouquet. So I'm going to use a combination of some silk flowers, roses there, and some lovely greenery. I do have some fresh flowers down below, which I will produce when the camera is over above me. And also I've got some dried flowers as well. I've got some little bits of lavender and sea lavender, which you would have seen last week when we did the macrame door hanging. So I've got a combination of everything. So this is all about freeing you up to be as creative as possible. And I'm thinking, perhaps if you're a knitter or a crocheter, perhaps you've got a stash of lovely, yarn made flowers that you might want to add to your flower crown as well to make it really individual to you. So I shall put those to one side and then start with the basics of what we're going to do, our mechanics. So you first of all need to reel off enough of your aluminium wire to make your headdress. Now there is a cheat to this. Well, nothing's a cheat in floristry and flower arranging. There is a sort of shortcut if you want a shortcut. And I don't know whether any of you ever, or whether you wear or whether you have the Alice bands, and particularly the plastic Alice bands. If you happen to have a plastic Alice band in your your dressing up kit, or you've got grandchildren, you could always skip this step and add your flowers to the plastic hairband. I will say though, if you're thinking, oh, I'd quite like that, and I might buy myself some, you just check that they are for adults and not for children, because I've fallen foul of that, thinking I was buying headbands for a hen night party I was running, and I bought all these headbands and they didn't fit over my head and weren't going to fit over the ladies who were having their hen night celebrations. So that is an option if you want to sort of cut out this section, and if you've got something you can reuse, well, why not go ahead and reuse it? So what you need to do is, it's going to be a made to measure piece, and you will need to measure how big your head is. So I'm envisaging a horseshoe shape Alice band rather than it being a complete circlet, like a mini doorway sitting on your head. So I'm thinking I'm going to have something like this arched over, and how big does that need to be? But before you cut off this bit, we're going to run it across 3, perhaps 4 times, because I want a bit of weight, a bit of substance to my band, in order that I've got something that I can then attach my my pipe cleaner to. So I'm thinking, well, my head's about that big, and so if it was that long, and I'm going to go 4. So I'm reeling this up, and I'm trying to be quite careful not to get the rest of the wire mushed up, because once you get it out of shape, it never goes back to that lovely sort of slinky coil. So I'm going to put that to one side and just wrap that bit of wire around, and that's nice and neat for next time. So I've now got myself a really long piece of wire, and it's such fun playing with this. It's a bit like when you go to the fair or old-fashioned village fetes, and you've got that plugged into the electricity, and but I go off piece a bit. So what I'm going to do is make a huge circle, and I'm going to bend these pieces of wire together. and just wrap them over. And now remembering that these little bits of wire where you cut it are going to be a little bit scratchy. So I'm going to organise them, not so they're down by my ears. I'm going to hide that scratchy join in the middle of my my headdress. So what I will do is put it on my head again and then bend it up so I know just about where I'm going. And I'm going to go backwards and forwards like that. So it looks a little bit messy at the moment. Is that going to feel all right? I think that's. So you can see there, if I show you all those lines, I will show you from up above, but I've tried to just hide the join in the middle so it's not going down the edges. And everything else is just looped over. So I've effectively made myself a horseshoe. And you do this to, you know, to fit the size of your individual head. So you could scrunch it down a little bit. I'm not going to do that at the moment. I'm just going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to bring the camera up over my over the table and show you how I'm going to use my pipe cleaners to bind this together, but also give me something with a bit of texture, a bit of, you know, a grit. It's like when you scuff up your paintwork to add your paint, you need to get a bit of grit going. And because my flowers will just slide around on the metal here, I want to add in the texture of my pipe cleaner and enable my flowers to stick to the pipe cleaner. So the pipe cleaner will stick to the wire and the flowers will stick to the pipe cleaner. So I will just turn the camera over and come back to you in a couple of seconds. So you can see up close that it doesn't look like anything very special at all. So this, remembering as well that this will all get hidden. So, you know, the fact it's bright red shouldn't really happen. I'm hoping anything that shows around my ears will get hidden in my hair. I'm going to start off using 2 pipe cleaners. You might be able to get away with 1, but I don't want to run out halfway through. So I'm joining these together, just twist tying them together. And I am going to start sort of making a little edging to go across the top of my hairband, which I can glue my flowers to. So I'm going to make a series of little loops. And you will have to twist in the same direction each time, otherwise these will come undone. So it's like little figures of 8 running across the top of my pipe cleaner. And then the next job will be, when I've done that, is to glue them using my hot glue gun and glue them in place like that. So I shall just continue, just do a few more twists around the end and deciding how big, of course, you want to do this, because it may be that you decide on your headdress, you know, do you want to go from ear to ear? Or do you want to just have a little sort of accent piece in your head, like a fascinator, you know, with a detail on one side? So I'm going to go probably, so that I'm going to leave myself a little bit on the edge there and go round. So I've probably got 3 more loops to go. This can be all made to measure according to what you want to have. So I'm sort of going for equally sized loops, but I'm not getting too het up about it. And they are quite lurid colours, but at least you can see them on the camera. So I will cut off the excess. I'm going to cut off and just leave myself a little bit of a tail, because again, these bits will be scratchy. So I'm just going to bend them back on themselves, and it's all the time sort of burying your scratchy ends so that they don't hurt you. Don't irritate you or start scratching your scalp. So there we have that. And the hot glue gun here. And I'm going to place it in the middle. I'm going to glue the middle on first, just so I don't lose track of where I am. So dot of hot glue there, and then this will catch on the end there. And then if I put a bit of hot glue, I'm aiming for those little join sections, and then they will instantly hold. Like that, and the last piece there. And it may be, if you want to add more glue, go ahead and add more glue. Remembering to, obviously the hot glue gun is hot and you will get these little trails. So just be careful. You might want to have a little bowl of water next to you if you're worried about burning yourself. So these little dots of glue here. And then I'm catching them. Perhaps if I turn it around this way around, you can see that it's catching on those sort of multiple layers of wire. And if you wanted to braid your wire or twist your wire, loop it round before you started, you've got that option of doing that. So I'm going to be making my headdress, my Alice band, my flower crown on the round. You could lay it out flat. I mean, physically, I can lay it out flat. But the problem is when you come to curve it to fit on your head, the difference from going when you've made something flat to curving it, you may find that you get some gaps that are opening up between your flowers. So it's almost like you need someone to sit next to you and you know, to keep modeling it, from you putting it on the table to putting it on your head or getting someone else to try it on. So to make sure that it doesn't look gappy, but please don't glue, you know, use a real life model and do your gluing whilst they're wearing it, because whether you're using the hot glue or the cold Oasis floral adhesive, you're going to come into problems if you actually glue your headdress to the your live model's head. So be warned. So that's that done. So the next thing to do is to have a look at the flowers that we want to be using and thinking about how you are going to decorate your floral crown. So I have got here a selection of dried materials. So as I say, I was just thinking I don't really want to spoil that lovely arrangement I made in class. So I've gone through my stash and sorting out some little bits of the fake greenery and the flowers to see what I could use. So off to one side. So I have got some rose leaves. I've got some little bits of eucalyptus, and I have got Dusty Miller, which is quite a fashionable sort of vintage inspired greenery for weddings at the moment. And like all leaves, they come in different sizes. So I'm going to have a think about cutting things down to size, because I don't want anything to be too big. We're always thinking about scale when we're arranging. And once I've done my basic headdress, you know, it may be that I might decide to go a little bit more flamboyant. At the moment, we'll start with sort of neat and petite. And then as my confidence grows, we can do something a little bit bigger and bolder. So having got my mechanics sorted, it's much like when you arrange flowers using flower foam. You then spend a lot of your time covering up your mechanics in order that they can't be seen. So I'm going to start doing that using some of my rose leaves. So I'm going to cut them off the side shoots. And again, if you're using fresh flowers, I would say think about what you're going to use. So if you're using fresh flowers, make sure your flowers are well conditioned, because you don't want any droopy leaves or flowers. And if you were using roses in your fresh flower crown, I wouldn't use the greenery, the leaves that naturally come with them, because they don't last very well. If you wanted to go for roses, I would have a look at buying some salal leaves from your florist. That's S-A-L-A-L, because they are a different kind of greenery, which is quite a good mock-up for a rose leaf. So I'm going to go through here, just sort of starting to cover up. I've chosen, you know, quite a small rose leaf here. I'm just getting a little bit of a light coverage to go across with my leaves, starting to cover up some of that, you know, quite unattractive pipe cleaner. So that's why it doesn't really matter what colour you're using. You know, use what you've got in your stash of flower arranging bits and bobs. So I'm working from one side to the other because I want them to look, you know, balanced. They don't have to be mirror images. It's sort of looking like sisters, each half looking like sisters rather than necessarily looking like twins. But I have got a pattern here. I've gone for a rose, 2 Senecio and a rose, 2 Senecio and a rose. And whether you glue onto the flower or the leaf, or whether you put the glue on the pipe cleaner is entirely up to you. And I'm just not putting them on flat, I'm sort of alternating where they go as well, just to give me a bit of movement and a bit of, and it doesn't look too static. And I'm searching now for a few more of the smaller Senecio. I think there's the big ones are just too large. We will work our way towards the centre. So this is where I'm using my hot glue because I can work quite speedily. If I was doing this with the floral adhesive, it's the kind of glue where you don't use very much. It's sort of like a slug trail of glue, you know, just a sort of glistening glimmer. And it needs to sort of cure or air dry a little bit before it actually sticks. So it's entirely possible to make a headdress with fresh flowers using glue, but you will need to factor in a drying time. So it will be faster than wiring a headdress, but it will be not quite as fast as I am doing here. I'm just going to go in with my last leaf back. And if you wanted, you know, to really be pristine, you could do exactly the same thing on the inside edge as well. If you felt you would be more comfortable with a leaf inner, that is what you could do as well. So we're starting off with that. So that's our sort of basic step number 1. And it may be, you know, imagine you were having a woodland themed party that perhaps the leaves would be, or you would need to add to your crown. So it's entirely up to you. You are the designer. What you say goes. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to try and be a little bit flamboyant, I think, because I have got these absolutely gorgeous peonies. So these are silk peonies. They look, you know, quite realistic for silk flowers. And what I will need to do is they've all got a very thick stem here with wire through the middle, which means I will need my wire cutters to cut off the stem. Now, sometimes they will just pull off. Let's see if we can pull. Actually, that has pulled off. You see there, I'm left with the little stand-up part. I might see actually whether I can cut that off with my floristry scissors, just making sure I don't pull the whole flower apart. And where do I want to have this main flower? Do I want it to be jauntily off to the side? Do I want to have it in the middle? Entirely up to you. So you might want to, as you're working with your flowers, just making sure that's not falling apart, to lay out your materials in front. And do you want it to all look very symmetrical? Or do you want it to go more random? Again, it's entirely up to you. But perhaps for this class, it'd be easier for me if I go sort of vaguely symmetrical, and then you can follow along with what I'm doing. So I shall just move those bits out of the way, so give you a better view. And I'm going to put this, you know, bang in the centre. So I've got this little knobbly bit here. So what I might do is lift up the leaves and aim my little bit of flower so it nestles down in those leaves. So I'm going to start off there with a bit of glue. And it may be that as I come to put the rest of the headdress together, it's not just about gluing the stem, but you may need to think about gluing onto your petals as well. And that's whether you're using fresh flowers or silks or dried as well. It just needs to survive the waggle test. You notice at the moment I'm not waggling it because I need to let my glue cure a little bit. And then we come to the roses. So these again are very lifelike flowers, and you've got the bulbous bit here, and we will need to cut that down. So I could cut it just straight across, and the same thing applies if you're using fresh roses. But I always like to cut across at an angle so that your flowers sit at an angle. They're not being put in straight up. You can play a bit more and have them angled down into your flower crown. So if I'm going quite close, snapping that off, it's soft and squidgy, and then bang, a little bit of wire is just revealed there. So when I glue this on here, I'll put glue on the end, and then I can snuggle it up next to my peony, and I might need to put some glue down the length of my flower so it's got 2 points of contact with the glue. So let's have a go at that. So glue down here on the end, and then I will just, I feel so rotten doing this, put a trail of glue down on that side as well. I'm holding my flower. See, as I'm using my silk flowers, I can be not rough with them. I'm still having to be quite dainty, but you can see how I'm holding them here. So I'm sort of got quite a lot of artistic leeway. If you were using your fresh flowers, you're going to have to do all your holding from the base so you don't damage your flowers. So that's where I am to begin with, side view. So I'm going to then match that up the other side. This flower is sort of coming out towards the front. So when I add my other flower in, because I don't want it to look really, really static, I want a bit of movement, I might angle this one slightly, just marginally off towards the back a little bit. So again, same thing, glue on the cut end, dribble my glue down the edge of the flower, decide where I want to go, nestling it right underneath that peony, and then holding it in place for a little while. And again, if you're using the floral adhesive, you will have to hold it for a little while before it does actually hold. So you notice I'm not doing the waggle test just yet. I will wait until my glue has a chance to do its thing. So I will just hold that there. And then the thing I was saying about, did I need to glue the peony anymore? I might just put a dot of glue down there and rest that back. And the same thing here. So it's not, you don't have to be superwoman when it comes to your gluing. I only glued everything on the stem and it all worked out fantastically well. You glue as much as you need to glue based on, making sure that you are happy that everything stays in place and it isn't going to fall off once it's on your head. So you may find, as I say, gluing between your components will work quite well. And then I've got my peony buds. So here I might, because I haven't got much opportunity for gluing down the side, I might leave these on slightly longer stems, because then I can glue down the length of the stem instead of gluing down the length of the flower. So again, before I put it in, I'll add, hold it up and think, where do I want that to go? And, makes sense there. And I'm using my principles of floristry and flower arranging, my big flower in the middle and coming out smaller at the sides. I think that could probably do with just a tiny bit off the end. And then I will take my glue the end, and then run a bit of glue down the stem, and then holding my flower crown up, sliding that along. So kind of sliding in underneath the rose there. I've chopped a bit off that one. I'm going to chop a bit off that as well, and coming in at the sides. So how you make this is entirely up to you. It may be that you've got everything that's mismatched, and that's perfectly fine. You just need to be confident that you're pleased with the overall effect, but it holds. So are we ready for the waggle test at the moment? So that's fallen off. That's to be expected. That was my newest piece to be added in. So perhaps I should give that a chance and let it set a little bit. Now, can you see here? I've put everything on the top run of my flower crown, so that when I hold it up at the side, you can still see all my mechanics. So what I would do at this stage is to try it on and see whether you can see the pipe cleaner and the piece of the aluminium wire. And if you can, see it, you need to cover that up. It may be because of your hairstyle, you might not be able to see that. So you would need to think about coming back in with something to fill in a little bit. So I'm just searching for my tiny little leaves I did reserve earlier. So maybe you can see that green there. So holding it up and thinking, do I need to put something else in there? So I'm always holding it up first and then judging where I need to add in the glue. So this time, instead of having it tracking flat across the wire, I've angled that slightly so you can't see that wire anymore. And I can come back in and do the same on that section there. So I'll just put a couple of pieces in so you can get the idea. You'll be able to see from one side of the flower crown to the other what difference that makes. It just adds on the end there, and I can see here, I'm just sort of finishing touches, and I can still see the bit of the green down there. So do I need another piece of green? And all the time having fun creatively, but also, you know, just having a look. Are my mechanics covered up? Is anything falling off? And just adjusting it a little bit. And of course, I haven't been able to try this on as I work, so that'll be a feat when I finish filming to put that on. But all the time you'd be trying it on. Do I want to come all the way down to the bottom with my flowers and greenery? Do I want to leave myself, you know, sort of a blank piece of wire because I don't want anything over my ears and itching me? So it just depends on what you want to do. So we've gone quite large here because my roses were quite large and my peony was large. You know, do we want to, you know, really go for it? You know, I've got my eucalyptus. Do I want to add that in? Well, let's have a go with it. So glued along the stem, and I could nestle that down in between. You just need to make sure if you do have anything sticking up, it's a bit like when we talk about arranging flowers, that you don't want it looking like a pair of dealy boppers. So just think about that you may need to be, you know, just mindful of where you're putting your bits of greenery. You might decide that, you know, it's not a look you like and you like it all to be a little more neat and petite, but that will be down to you and your personal choice and the thing, you know, what you enjoy wearing. Equally, to have a little bit of fun as well. So I might put this bit of green down here, the edge there, and a few more stems here. And I'm only using here the stems of my eucalyptus, the tips I mean. I'm not using, you know, when we have a long piece of greenery, and quite often I'll say to you, well, if you cut it down there, you've got a second piece of greenery here. I'm not using these truncated pieces for my flower crown, or not just the stand up pieces. I might use some of the leaves at the edges if I needed them, but it would look a little bit odd if you had a really flat leaf at the top. So I'm going for something that's nice and delicate and fades away to nothing at the top. So when I put this on, when I show you later, you'll be able to decide whether you want to have lots of things sticking out or whether it's just a step too far. But I thought if I'm brave, it'll give you an idea of what perhaps you would like to do when you come to your own flower crown. Now, I do have some fresh flowers as well, so perhaps you might want to do a hybrid flower crown and get your basics in first. And if you were having a party, you could do all this, you know, the fake stuff, the artificial greenery and flowers first of all, and then add in your special fresh flowers, you know, nearer the time. So let me see what I've got. So working with my pinky theme, I'm just going to get rid of these bits so you can see more clearly what I'm doing. That bowl over there. But perhaps you might want some you know, fresh flowers to add it in. And why not? Let's have fun with it. So again, at this stage, adding your fresh flowers in, I would highly recommend, you know, to do your flowers a favour and use the floral adhesive. But it's, for me, it's a time thing here. So please forgive me, Mr. Flower, when I put a bit of hot glue on your bottom. But I guess it's no different from when we come to revive roses, is it? We use that hot glue. And it's showing here that, you know, something smaller to fill in the gaps. So we've got a huge focal flower, you know, middle size with the roses and the peony buds, but perhaps sometimes you need a little bit of something that is a bit smaller, just so you've got something for your eyes to feast on. It's that small, medium and large. Your focal flower the filler flowers and that sort of transitional, that in-betweeny size as well. So I think I need to cut that a bit shorter. Measure up. So I'll just put a few more of these stems in so you can see how it looks with that mix of the fresh and the artificial. And I must put these in because these are scabious that my husband's planted to attract the bees into the garden. So I sneakily cut these out when he was dog walking this morning. So I must make sure I use them. And perhaps to tuck them in the back there. So you're making your own little garden and having fun with it, really. So the last few pieces. And then when we make and create together, you know, I may end up throwing the kitchen sink at it as well and really, really going for it. So let's see if I can slide that one in there. I'm trying not to make it too, you know, symmetrically neat down the middle. I'm trying to get it balanced, but it does, I say, each half is a sister. It doesn't have to look as if it's the twin of the other one. And that will save you a little bit of heartache if you aren't making, you know, trying to get everything to be balanced and, you know, looking lovely. So we have got a selection of Sweet Williams in the garden at the moment. You can divide them down. You don't have to use the whole head. And, you know, I could pick the flowers off and just glue the little bits of flower on. But you're just making and creating, doing a lovely little tapestry. And then the last thing I've got here, as we're coming towards the end of June, I've got these little bits of honesty and I'm wondering about adding those in. So maybe you might have poppy heads in your garden, just at that lovely green stage before they actually dry out. So just for a little bit of contrast. It's sort of a hybrid thing, really. It's not fresh. Well, it is fresh, but it will dry, and it's not a silk. So I'm just going to tuck in one piece that I can see towards the front on that side, and then perhaps just a glimpse of it, sort of repeated back over the other side as well. So there we go. Are we ready for the big reveal? So I will bring the camera back up to me, and then you can have a right old giggle about how this looks on my head, and think about, you know, what techniques you like in this construction, and you know, how you might adapt it in terms of the fit and the amount of flower that you're going to end up on your head. So this is all quite lightweight, so I think it is going to be comfortable to wear. And I will say a lot of wearing a flower crown is just having the confidence to wear it. So bear with me as I bring the camera back. I'm feeling slightly nervous at this point, because normally I would have put the flower crown on my head or looked in the mirror and just sort of worked it out, what it was looking like. So I'm pulling off the trails because we have got the hot glue. You do get these trails going across, but there we are. I'm feeling very like Frida Kahlo. Is that the lady's name? So I think that deserves a round of applause personally. So it's just a little, thank you. I am getting that round of applause. I'm just conscious of my ears sticking out. We always look at ourselves, don't we, and pick out the bad bits. I wonder whether I took my hair down, that would make it look any different. You know, I feel like I'm on a shampoo advert now. So it just depends on that look you're after. And because the having my glasses on doesn't help, because the aluminium wire is bendy, you do get a little bit of scope to fit it more to your head as well. But you can see here, let's be brave. Shall I straighten it out? That if I was to straighten it out, you can see that as I have straightened it, everything has crunched up together a little bit. So if you were to make your flower crown flat, when you came to shape it to fit on your head, that is when these little gaps are going to come out. So awkward as it is to make it in the round, it's the best thing to do in order that your headdress, your flower crown, looks more impactful. You don't want to go, you could go back afterwards and fill in any gaps that you've got to do that, but it just depends, just as long as you're aware really. If you make it on the flat and then once you've curved it round, you probably will need to fill in a few gaps. So what I'll do, I don't know whether I'll put a selfie in the newsletter that goes out with this video, or try and find somebody, the dog perhaps, to model the flower crown, and then you'll get a really good look at it. So I was putting everything in from the front. If I show you the back, you can still see where all my workings are visible. So it's that decision again, you know, if I was to put it the wrong way round, can I see the pipe cleaner and the red wires? And I think probably I can. So I think just for completeness and workmanship, you know, marks, that I would also put in the leaves to cover up this edge, or even a few flowers recessed down. So when you put things really low down, it just covers up all those bits of mechanic that you don't want to be showing. So I should turn it round the right way. Again, it looks like we wore our macrame wall hangers last week, so you can see how you'd be able to adapt this. Perhaps if you were going to a fancy party and you had a, you know, a strapless dress or a dress with spaghetti straps, you could have one of these hair pieces made on the, you know, similar sort of technique, but you could wear it as an adornment on your body. So there's always a different way of looking at things and doing things. So on that merry note, I will say goodbye to our ladies who are watching on record. Don't forget to sign up to take advantage of your discount for the Staycation Flowers Summer Holiday Flower Arranging Club. I'm sure a really good name will come to me in the next few days. And if you've got a good name for what we should call the next class, do let me know. And you never know, I might take you up on your suggestion. And as ever, don't forget to post your pictures. Selfies would be fantastic into Flowers.world, which is our group over on Facebook. And if you're not on Facebook, I love seeing your messages on Instagram as well. So do drop me a line. So I shall say goodbye. And for the rest of us that are staying for our Make and Create sessions, I'm looking forward to getting even more flamboyant and seeing how much you can balance on your head. So it is a feat of balance that you need to be secure, that you are, you know, from desktop to head, it is actually going to stay. And whether you want to come, you know, slightly longer down behind your ears, or whether you want to just make a lovely, as I said before, that sort of fascinator look off to one side. So I'm going to press the end of the recording button now, and I will catch up with you. Well, hopefully I will see you in the Summer Holiday Flower Arranging Club. But for those ladies who are staying behind, we are looking forward to having a nice cup of tea and a chat and watching and seeing what you've brought with you for class today.